And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tells. I'm your host, Brandon. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Tammy. Tammy, thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself before we dive into it?
I've lived in Louisville for most of my life, except for about 3 years. I lived in Indianapolis, then moved back to Louisville. I live in my childhood home that I grew up in. I've lived a bunch of places, but after my dad passed, he um, gave the house to me, and I moved back into it. Um, and that's where like all my experiences started, as far as uh, paranormal experiences, which set me on a path of being totally interested in anything paranormal, conspiracy theory, that there's something else out there. And it's been a lifelong thing for me. I'm in my late 50s now, and it's still of interest to me. I listen to a lot of paranormal podcasts, and cryptid podcasts, including your own.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in cryptids because I'm thinking, this many people can't be making up these stories. You know what I mean?
Right. There's a lot of people who have had too many sightings for it to all not be something out there they're seeing.
Exactly. I agree. And then for the longest time, I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about aliens. I don't really know if I believe in them or not. And here lately, which I've had sightings myself. The first one that I've ever saw, was about 2 blocks over from my house. We were getting ready to go roller skating, if that tells you anything. The Friday and Saturday night roller skating. But a friend of mine, we like our moms would drop us off, or one would drop us off, one would pick us up. And we were standing there waiting for his mom to come out to the car, and we were like, "What is that?" And this was like 1979. So that's how long ago it's been. And we were like, "What is that?" And it it just shot off to the side. I don't know of any aircraft that does that, except a military plane, maybe. I don't know. I'm no aeronautical, expert. I don't know. But I'm thinking to myself, what is that? And it just kept hovering there and hovering there. And then it just, as quickly as it was hovering, it just shot out to the side. And we both looked at each other. We tried to tell his mom. We were like, we saw a UFO. And she was like, yeah, sure you did. Get in the car. She didn't believe us, but we know what we saw. And it
Right.
was not a normal aircraft at all. And oddly enough, when I moved back in this house in 2013, it was around 2018. I have four dogs. And around 2018, I was standing out on the deck on a summer morning. I had let them out. I get up at 5 o'clock because I have to be at work very early. And I was just standing out there letting them do their business and run around. And in the same spot over in the kind of to the northwest, same spot, same thing happened again. There's this hovering aircraft, and it it just shot off to the side really quickly. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. Like, I know what I've seen. I've seen a lot of helicopters, airplanes. I don't live too far from um, the airport, and you see all kinds of um, airplanes, all kinds of aircraft. We live, by the National Guard, um, and and I've never seen anything like that. It's just very unusual. Um, but the purpose of my call, when we were talking about paranormal experiences in this house when I was about 5 years old, I would see multiple people in the house. And I would tell my parents. And of course, my parents were very religious. And they were like, no, you didn't. You're just making that up. You have a wild imagination. But I know what I saw, you know, and it scared me at first because, of course, they made a big deal about it, saying that's not what it is. And, people who say they see things like that are evil and that's not right. And that's against the Bible. And so after a while, I shut that off. I just was like, okay, I would try to reason it in my brain. I'm not saying what I saw, that's not real. And it became where um, I just shut that part of myself off for a very long time, but I would still have experiences. And so would my siblings. My siblings would tell my parents, the basement is scary. I see things down there. And they're like, no, you don't. You know, you're just it's a wild imagination. And they were teenagers because I'm the youngest out of six kids. So they were teenagers at this time. And my parents insisted that, they were just making that up. And I'm like, no, they're not, you know. So I kind of feel like this house is a train station kind of deal where they come in and they come out and they come in and they come out. Um, it's not any one thing that stays here. You know what I'm saying? You have people who say, "Oh, well, it's it's a man and his name is Bob," and you know what I mean. They name their ghost or whatever. I don't believe it's that at all. Because I believe that I've seen multiple people and they just kind of come through, so to speak, I guess. I've never asked any of them, like, what do you want? What do you need? Nothing like that. I've never tried to communicate ever. Other people have been here and felt weird energy. My son being one of them before he um, grew up and moved out. He's seen uh, black masses. I have not seen that. Um, I have heard like footsteps, things will go missing and they'll just pop up again. And I know exactly where I laid something. And I'm like, where did it go? I know it was right there, you know, and come back and it'll be in that exact place after I've torn the house up looking for it. Since my mom and my dad both passed away in this house, and it has kind of like really calmed down a lot, especially since my father passed in 2011, which is strange. I still feel energy. I can't see things anymore, but I still feel energy. Um, I'll be in a place and I'll feel weird energy. Like I was in this little boutique in E Town that used to be a doctor's office in the 1800s. And I asked the lady, I said, and it felt like a swirling around me. And I said, "Do you all have you all ever been told you have spirits here?" I know I'm going to sound like a kook, but I don't care. And she's like, "Yeah, they have told us that before." And I said, "They who? Like, who has told you that?" I said, "Because I sense a male here, and I sense a little girl." And I said, "The little girl, like she likes to hide." She'll pop out and she hides, and she pops out and she hides. And I walked into this back room and I said, like right there, she likes to go in there. And she said, we had a paranormal group because some weird things we'd come in the morning to open the store and things would be moved, you know. And she said they said it was that little girl. She said, "That's so weird that you would say that." And I said, "Well, I can't see them, but I sense if they're male or a female, or if they're young or if they're old. You know what I mean? But I don't like I can't see their face. You know how some people will say, "Oh yeah, it's a 6'5" male standing over there and he's got brown hair or brown eyes or whatever." I can't sense that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can sense whether it's a female or a male energy, or if it's a young energy or an old energy. Um, and Sometimes the energy, because I used to work from home, I don't anymore, darn it. But I used to work from home, and some days it was just so chaotic here. Like I would feel all this energy coming through, and I would be like, I would just feel like somebody was standing right behind me. Um, when I was about 16, we used to have a TV room down in the basement, and I had been talking to one of my friends, and um, I had hung up. I was sitting there watching TV, and I felt this breath on the back of my neck. I mean, like somebody standing really close to you, breathing on the back of your neck. And I thought, I don't know if I can turn around or not, because I was paralyzed in fear. I mean, that's a very unsettling feeling. And it was late at night. Everybody had already gone to bed. And I was just up late on a Friday night. And I just felt this breathing on my neck. And I thought, I'm going to turn around really, really fast and see what it is. And I turned around and there was absolutely nothing standing there. None of my brothers, because they were constant pranksters. You know how brothers are. And they were constant pranksters, and I thought maybe one of them had snuck up behind me while I was talking to her on the phone, playing a practical joke. There was nothing there. And I mean, I come barreling up the stairs because it scared me so bad. And because my bedroom is upstairs and in the back of the house. And I just went barreling through the living room and jumped right into the bed. I have felt people sit on my bed before when I was around 13, 12, or 13 years old. I would tell my mom this, and she's like, "That's ridiculous. Like, you're just making that up for attention." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I mean, honestly, I would really rather not feel that because that's scary. You're sleeping and somebody sits on your bed and you look and there's nothing there, you know." Um, So yeah, that's my story as far as my house. I've had other paranormal experiences, other places, uh, but that's very, very bizarre. Uh, and that's how I grew up in this house. You just kind of learn to block it out and shut it off.
Right. When was the last time you had something happen while you're there?
This is 2025, probably around 2023.
So a couple of years.
Yeah. Uh, it drastically slowed down after my dad died.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine who's a psychic, I'm not. I just feel what I feel. I've never tried to expand on my gift. I've never tried to do anything with it. Um, I tell people I get what I get. You know what I mean? I if I feel something, I feel something. Uh, I've never tried to do anything with it. I've never tried to increase it or work with anybody that could help me expand it. Um, I also sometimes will read energy from pictures. Like I'll see a picture and it just creeps me out. And I'll tell you something about that person that was in that picture, and I've never met them before. um, which comes in handy for some of my girlfriends who's like, "Hey, I'm on this dating app. What do you think about this guy?" And I mean, I have called it before. I'm like, "Do not mess with this person. There's something wrong with them." And they'll go ahead and date them and end up, and I'm right, you know. Uh, but around 2023, my son had stayed all night because he lives pretty far up in Indiana, and he decided to stay all night because he works for UPS, so it'd be a shorter commute for him. And we were sitting here just up late talking and cutting up and carrying on. And all of a sudden we just heard footsteps as plain as day. And my phone went off. And my phone went off. It was Siri. And she said, "I'm standing right here in front of you." And both of us looked at each other because I'm like, that's pretty weird. Like Siri will usually say, "I'm listening," or, like I've heard her say that before. I've
Mm-hmm.
never heard her say, "I'm standing right here in front of you."
Yeah,
And both
that's
of us
weird.
looked at each other and yeah, because we heard it. I'm also the type of person too that like everything is not paranormal. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to reason stuff out.
Uh-huh.
I don't think everything is paranormal. I don't think everything is a cryptid. I don't think everything or every experience you have, sometimes you creep your own self out. But if things don't add up and they're not logical, then I'm like, what other explanation could this be? I mean, you look at this, you look at that, you look at this. And it's like, what other explanation could that be? I'm not sure if you're familiar with hillbilly horror stories.
I know of it,
It's
yeah.
another, yeah, it's another podcast. I'm an admin for them. Well, I was really good friends with Jerry and Tracy. God rest Jerry's soul. Uh, and we had gone to West Virginia. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm eating. My sugar is dropping. I'm a diabetic. So I'm eating a little snack in between here to raise my sugar.
No, you're all good.
Um, um, but we had gone to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, because he was doing a live show there. And we were staying at the Low Hotel. Creepy, super creepy hotel. It's been on Ghost Adventures before, I think. But anyhow, the floor we were staying on was the same one Jerry and Tracy were staying on, but they were staying in the newer edition where they had remodeled. We were staying in the older, crappy version that had not been remodeled. But anyhow, I was walking down the hallway and I kept telling my husband, I said, something's wrong with that closet. Like that closet, something is in there. And he's like, "What?" And I said, "Every time we walk past, that door is just a little bit ajar." And it was the maid closet where they would get like fresh towels and toilet paper, things to restock the rooms. And I said, "There's something in there." I said, "I can just feel it. Like every time we walk past, it's like something is looking at us." And he's like, "I don't notice any difference." And I said, "Okay." So every single time I walked past it, I could just feel it. So me, him, and Jerry had gotten up early one morning and we were going down to get coffee. And that door slammed so hard. I mean, it slammed shut so hard. And every single time we had passed it, it had been open. And I said, "Well, that was strange." And Jerry's like, "No, it's probably just the wind." I said, "That was not the wind." I said, "That was like somebody slammed that door shut. There's a difference." And I said, "So let's do an experiment." And I walked over and opened the door. And I said, "So let's walk down the hallway and see if it's possible that, we can recreate that same thing and have it slam shut." I said, "There's no windows open. What could have possibly closed that?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know, but I don't think it's that." And I said, "So then why won't it do it again?" You know what I mean? You have to like logically reason things out. that door slammed so hard it had to be something behind it,
Mm-hmm.
because every other time we had walked past it, the 2 days that we were staying there, it was probably about 6 inches ajar. It was never closed, ever, not once when we walked past it. But it slammed so hard, like somebody was angry and slammed the door. And there was a husband and wife who owned the hotel, or still do, I guess, and she was a believer. Her husband was not. He's like, people just make those things up. There's nothing wrong with this hotel. There's nothing that's weird that goes on here. And I'm like, okay, buddy. You know, yes, there is. There is for sure. Because the room that they put us in, my husband, who is a total deflector, he doesn't, it's not that he doesn't believe, but he's one of those type people that something drastic would have to happen before he did believe. He couldn't sleep either. We did not sleep well the whole night before. We kept waking up. I said, "Don't you like it feels like something is in this room?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can't sleep." And my husband is a type person, probably 2 minutes after he lays his head down, he's out like a light. And it is very unusual for him to not be able to sleep. And I said, there's just this whole vibe of this hotel. I cannot wait to get out of here. I did not like it. It was very chaotic.
I had something like this happen here recently where my field office is. We were renting out a old building in this town that we just did some asphalt work in, and it's an old brick building. They turned it into a coffee shop. Well, it's not open anymore, and we're using it for like a field office. And I went into the bathroom to wash my hands, and I noticed that the bathroom door, I saw it in the mirror, just shut right behind me. So I tried to recreate it multiple times to see why it shut, because I didn't touch it, and I could never get it to shut on its own again. So that was a weird one for me. I was like, I've tried to figure out every situation I could to try and get that door to shut by itself, and I can never make it just automatically shut on its own.
Right. And I'm a firm believer in that. You know, logically reason things out. Try to see if you can get it to do the same thing again, you know. And if you cannot, like, what is the reason for that? I also went to Bobby Mackey's and did not like it. I did not like it at all. I was standing there while everybody was standing around talking. We were going on a tour. They had split us up into two groups, and one group was going downstairs because it's a smaller area, so you can't have everybody together. And the other group that I was in, we were staying upstairs for the time being and looking around. And I kept saying, my back is freezing. Like it is so cold. And it feels like there's a male energy standing right behind me. I said, it was just a very creepy vibe. It wasn't a friendly vibe. It was very, very creepy. And there was this guy in the group who said that he could visually see spirits. And he said, "Are you feeling anything right now?" Like this is before I ever said anything. I'm thinking this all in my mind. And I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "My back is freezing." And I said, "I feel like there's a male energy standing behind me." And he's very creepy. Like I don't know who he is, but he's very creepy. And he said, "Yes." He said, "There is a man standing right behind you, and he's trying to reach out and touch your hair." And that creeped me out so bad. I mean, I did not like that at all. But I could feel that. And like I said, I've been different places where I feel things or I hear things or I feel energy. I don't see things like a lot of people do. A lot of people will say they see, like he did. He said, "Oh, yeah, it's a man standing behind you and he's reaching out and he's trying to touch your hair." And I said, "Well, I just feel like my back is frozen." Like the front of me, it was the weirdest feeling because, like, the front of me was perfectly warm. but the back of me just felt like I was laying on an ice cap. I mean, it was so cold. And and he said, "Yes," he said, "There's a male standing behind you, and he's trying to reach out and touch your hair." Things like that just creep me out. I guess that's probably why I have never tried to do anything with it, and I don't know, I might feel better if I knew how to better handle it, you know? Um, but a long time ago, I guess it was probably 2012, 2012. No, it was sooner than that because my dad was still living. So it was probably around 2009, 2010 because he passed in 2011. And we had gone to look at this house that was over on a street in this same neighborhood, but it was a like 1800s house. It was built in the 1800s and they had totally refurbished it and they were having an open house. And it was a beautiful home. It was just a gorgeous home in a really nice area. And we were looking around downstairs, and then we had gone down to the basement, and then we had gone all the way up on the top floor where the main bedrooms, the master bedroom, and they had redone the master bath up there. Well, the second bedroom to the left, I was in there, and I had the worst feeling come over me, just this massive heaviness and blackness came around the side of my peripheral vision, and it I could feel somebody at some point had committed suicide there. Uh, I could just feel all this dark energy, and I mean, it was like a heavy black smoke that just came around my peripheral vision. I said, "I have to get out of here." I said, "I don't like this house. You could not pay me enough money to live here because I don't feel like that energy ever went away, or I wouldn't be feeling it." Uh, and I waited for because my husband was still looking around, and I waited for him to get outside. And as soon as like I hit that front door and went outside, it's all that lifted and it just I was fine. But I could not stand to be in that second bedroom. And I felt like it was a male and I felt like he was horribly, horribly depressed and that he had committed suicide there. And I was like, no, I got to get out.
I wonder if now you don't have these experiences like you've already said you're not psychic, you don't have anything like that. But I wonder if there's something that with that spirit itself, if it was trying to use you for your energy purposes, if that makes any sort of sense. Like it was trying to draw from you for its own self.
I don't know. And sometimes I wonder that too, because I think people who are more sensitive, I guess, if you will, and more prone to depression, maybe they try to tap on people like that, or tap into their energy, if you will. I'm not sure.
I think we're all energy, like obviously like humans and animal, like we all are some form of energy. And I think these things, whatever they are, need to be energized somehow. And I wonder if they don't find certain people that they just try and tap into. Not so much like a food source, but that's their way of communicating. So they need to drain the energy of people for something. Because there's been instances where others have went into um, these buildings and they go into a room and they feel the like something drains their energy.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering
I
if
have been places like that.
so I wonder if there's things in there that draw on the energy of people, like they have that bad feeling, they don't feel good, they feel weak. I wonder if it's something tapping in there and draining their energy for their own self, like it's feeding on that energy.
Well, I mean, our very soul is our energy. It's who we are, just like If you're a positive person and you like to lift other people up, or if you're a very antisocial person, you don't want to be around a lot of people, or you're not very communicative, you don't like to communicate with people, or you're very shy, so to speak. Um, all of us are different in our own way, and all of us are energy sources, and that's I mean, I feel like that's who we are. Our energy is who we are. But, it's weird that you were talking about that because my son and I were talking about this the other day because he actually can see spirit. And I never stopped him when he was little and he would tell me he would see things. I would tell him, tell me what you're seeing, tell me what you're feeling. And I never discounted him because I know what it felt like when I was young. So I didn't want to do the same thing to him. But here's what we were talking about. We were talking about, he said, "Do you believe vampires are real?" Because we always have these hypothetical conversations. We're both big conspiracy theorists. We're both weirdos, if you will. I accept that. I embrace that. That's who I am.
Now, my show is
Uh,
tinfoil tells, so I embrace that too.
yeah. So I said, no. I said, in the traditional sense, like Vlad the Impaler or, having fangs and coming and sucking your blood out. I said, no, but I do believe in energy vampires. 100% I believe in energy vampires because I have been around people who have so much negative energy about them in a living form that they will literally drain you because you have your guard up like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be around these people. There's something off about them. You don't want to be around them, or they're extremely negative. Nothing ever goes right. They're never positive about anything. They're never happy about anything. Everything is gloom and doom. And they never have anything positive to say about anybody else. Those to me are energy vampires, and they will literally suck the life out of you. Some people you can just feel it coming off of them. Like I have been in public before and actually left. I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. I have looked at my husband and I said, I don't want to be here anymore. We got to go. We got to go. It could be in a public place. It could be in a store. It could be in Walgreens. It could be anywhere. And I'm just like, something's wrong. I don't want to be here. And I'll leave. Um, and not that anything bad happened after I left. But it's something in me telling me I need to go. Uh, I'll tell you one thing. I did listen to my intuition. Um, I was getting ready to get out and get gas. It was probably about a mile and a half from my house. And I don't normally ever go to this particular gas station. And a man and woman were standing out front. Something about them, the vibes they were giving off, their energy was off. And I'm like, I'm not getting out. Like I had one foot out, had my hand on my purse, was getting ready to get out and go in the gas station. And I thought, no, no, something feels off. I'm not doing it. Well, later on that night on the news, there had been two women who were robbed in broad daylight by a man and a woman. And it was right after I had left that gas station. And I'm like, well, there you go. That's why. Because sometimes I can't even explain why I feel the way I do, And that's probably the hardest part is learning to trust yourself. Like something feels off. I don't, I don't like it here, or I don't feel like I need to be here. I got to get out of here. And then sometimes you never get an explanation as to why you felt that way. And then there's other times where instant validation comes up. That's exactly why I felt that way. Two women had gotten robbed by that couple. in that parking lot in broad daylight. And I could have been the next person, you know?
Right.
So I left, and I'm glad I listened to my gut that time. Like I said, sometimes I do get confirmation, other times there's not any. But I've learned to trust that if something feels off, I won't do it. I just leave.
Sometimes I feel like we have some sort of abilities that we don't understand and we haven't tapped into them. But if you go into a building or a place, sometimes you feel like someone's watching you and you happen to look up and you notice someone turns away, like, oh, they were looking at you. You can feel someone's, like, if you sense someone staring at you. So I wonder
Yes.
if we don't have any sort of other abilities to where we can sense things that may make us uneasy. Like we sense that there's something not right. And it's that gut feeling that we have to follow.
I think it stems from, if some people are honed into it more so than other people, and I think it's our survival instinct. Pure and simple, at our very core, it's our survival instinct. So we learn, some people learn to trust it more, um, and some people try to reason it away. Like, nah, that's probably just me being a weirdo, or, you know, it's probably nothing. And go on ahead and do whatever, or go wherever. And in your gut, or people call it gut, intuition, your intuition is telling you, don't do this. And I think everybody's born with that survival instinct. Like I said, I just think some people hone into theirs more so than other people. Uh, and then, whereas mine, I feel like I've learned to trust my intuition through many mistakes that I've made and gone against my intuition and found out, you really shouldn't have done that. You should have listened to yourself. Um, Whereas other people override it, and then other people are more keenly aware than I am. Uh, and I used to think, well, a lot of people that have psychic ability, they're just doing cold reads. They don't know what they're talking about. And it's, as I've gotten older, I don't believe that. I believe that some people have those heightened gifts. Matter of fact, my mom would have precognitive dreams. For her to tell me, oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Don't listen to that. Don't do, that's of the devil. She had precognitive dreams. Now, did she call them that? No. She called them warnings. And when she would have a dream about something, it would come true. So if she warned you not to go somewhere, you better not go, because something bad was going to happen. When I was a kid or teenager, they used to have this under 21 club. And my friends were gonna come by and pick me up one night, and they were like, "Yeah, let's go, let's go dancing." And she said, "Don't go." She said, "I had a dream about that place," and she said, "Don't go. It's very, something bad is gonna happen." And I said, "You just want me to stay home. You're just trying to manipulate me. You know how you are when you're 16. You
Right.
just want to be with your friends." And she said, and she grabbed my hand, and she was completely and totally sincere. And I could feel that she was sincere. And she said, "Don't go." Well, they went on ahead and went, and there was a shooting in the parking lot that night. And these two guys had gotten into it over some chick, and one of them was shooting at the other one, and he died right there on scene. And I'm thinking, well, what if I had ignored her and gone on ahead and gone, and one of those stray bullets caught me? She had another dream where she woke up and she said, Gary, that's my brother, she said, he's been in an accident, something's wrong with his eye. And sure enough, he was underneath the car. He was changing out the oil, and something from the car, some kind of liquid. It wasn't the oil, but some kind of liquid had dripped in his eye, and he come home and he had an eye patch on. She would have things like that happen, um, but she wouldn't call them that. She would just call them warnings. And I'm like, well, yeah, you had abilities too. She just didn't want to admit she had abilities.
Yeah, I have lots of questions when it comes to stuff like this because oftentimes I wonder if the things that we think that we are experiencing and the things that we sense, if we don't have some sort of intuition that we just can't tap into, that others have more openness to. Like, so when we say people are more in tune with the spirit realm, is it something that we all have the ability for? We just don't know how to use it. And then when people have like this psychic ability, I've talked to others that say that we all have the same abilities. More people just know how to actually use it, and the rest of us are shut off from it because we haven't figured it out yet. So it makes you wonder if like what really is going on when some people are able to do that. Like, are we more sensitive, or others more in tune with their own natural abilities, or is it something that we can all learn to use ourselves, but we just don't know how?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I know a lot of people um, I have seen that have those abilities. They offer classes, although I've never taken them. They offer classes on how to do that. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you can really, I have mixed feelings on that because I don't know if you can really teach somebody how to do that or if they're just born with that innate ability. Because look at some people can pick up an item and they can tell you who it belonged to. They can read the energy from the item, say it was a ring or a bracelet or a cup they used to use, anything like that. Uh, I can't do that. I have I have no ability to do that. I think some people are just gifted in different ways, but I don't really know what the secret would be to how to develop it. I'm really curious about that part of it, but I guess not curious enough that I've taken any other classes. Um, but I do wonder about that as well. I'm thinking, well, if everybody can do it, then how do you do it?
Right.
How do you go about that? How do you go about opening yourself up? And I also wonder if it's not a personality characteristic. Say, for instance, some people are more guarded, like, I don't know that I want to give up that much of myself to anything, to open myself up. What does it mean to open yourself up? I don't know what that means either.
I think
I really don't.
I've always looked at it as like a Pandora's box because you don't exactly know what you're opening up. And just because you open yourself up to new avenues, I guess, or new situations, but you could be also inviting other things in that you're not wanting to. So you might be able to communicate with spirits, but you're also communicating with dark energy that you don't want to be communicating with either. And they can manifest themselves and impersonate things just to try and get what they're actually wanting. So I'm always leery about stuff like that. When people talk like they've communicated with a Ouija board, or if they're talking with a psychic and they're talking to a spirit, how do you really know what you're communicating with? Like,
Right.
so I'm always leery when it comes to anything like that because I just don't want to bring in anything dark, evil, which
Hmm.
maybe these things aren't dark and evil to themselves. Like they are what they are. We just perceive them as dark and evil, but for them, they're just doing what they do. There is no good or bad. It's just what they do. So I don't know.
Well, I kind of feel like that. I know a lot of people, they're like, well, in and of itself, uh there's no bad or good on the other side. Well, to me that never made sense, and this is the reason why. You have really good people here on earth, and you have some really horrible evil people here on earth. So if we're spirits and we are infinite, which I do believe we are, this is just a physical body that's holding our soul. then how come you couldn't be evil on the other side, just like you were in life? You know? Uh, so that's why when I say, well, how do you open yourself up? I don't know that I would want to for that very reason that you expressed. Maybe somebody could come across and at first act like they were somebody that I loved that had passed. And 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 then all of a sudden do a 360 and be a horrible energy. I I just don't want to open myself up to that. I guess that's probably why I don't know how, and I've never investigated it any further because I'm like you. What happens if you invite all these dark energies in? One light comes through, and then there's five dark. Because I do believe in evil spirits. I do. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's hogwash." Well, your belief is your belief, and you're certainly entitled to that, and I respect that. But I do believe in dark energies. Um, because I've seen them in people. I mean, I have been around people who I was like, "Ooh, they're not good people." I mean, they're literally scary people, and I just seen them on the street where they have so much dark energy about them that I'm like, I don't even want to be around them. I would literally get up and cross the street if I was sitting on a bench because I used to work downtown a long time ago, and of course, people coming and going at lunchtime, and there were just people that scared me. I'm just like, there's something really wrong with them. And it could have been too that they might have had severe mental illness, which is a dark energy because it's chaotic in there, and they're not at themselves. But at the same token, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I couldn't help them. So my best move was to get away from them,
Right.
because there's just a lot of people that the energy around them is just very negative, and I don't want to be around it. And I've worked in places where I come home completely and utterly drained because I have tried so hard to shut out all the negative energy. I can walk in the office and just feel automatically what kind of day it's going to be because of everybody's mood, and know if it's going to be a good day and a calm day, or if it is going to be a horrible day because everybody's in a bad mood. Uh, just by their body language, just reading and feeling the energy before they even open their mouth. And so then I call it putting my shields up. You put your shields up and you're like, I'm gonna try to deflect as much of this as I can. I don't want to absorb it. So you're working so hard to do that. By the time you get home, you are mentally exhausted. And I'm sure you probably have other guests that will listen to this and go, yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, I agree. Because you can work around people that are just so negative. Again, the energy vampires that they just suck the life out of you if you will let them, you
Right.
know.
Yep. That seems to be a very common thing is some people have the ability to just drain people. And I don't know if they understand that, but when you're dealing with such negative people, negative energy, it manifests itself and it really does have an effect on other people. Like if you're around someone that's a miserable person, 90% of the time you're going to feel miserable yourself because you're stuck around someone completely miserable.
And I had a neighbor when I was growing up as a kid. I had a neighbor, and she was my mom's friend, and she was the most negative person I've ever been around in my whole lifetime. If you gave her 5 reasons to be happy, she would give you 15 to not be happy. I mean, if you look overall at life, we can find plenty of reasons to be in a bad mood or to be negative. I mean, look at the world. The world's on fire, man. And people are not as nice as they used to be. You can dwell on that, or you can look at the positive things, uh, and try to kind of infuse that. Because I have a guy that I work with now, and he's everything's always negative, negative, negative. He's never says anything positive. Well, when I'm talking to him, I try to turn that around and say, "Yeah, but look at this and what all you have that is good in your life." And pretty soon he gets tired of talking to me and just walks off. And he doesn't want anything positive, but I'm not going to let his negativity come over into me and just go back to my desk and be in a bad mood because he is a negative person. I'm not going to do that. Uh, I try, and it's not like I haven't had life trials or things bad happen to me. Everybody does. But I try not to dwell on that constantly, or it will just drag you straight down. So you have to try to look at, what do I have good in my life? Not what all's bad.
Hmm.
I can make a list of bad things, but what is good in my life? And and when I'm talking to negative people, that's exactly what I try to do to them. I try to turn it around. But look what good you have in your life, you know, whether it's an animal, like I love my dogs. My dogs make me happy. They're sweet little, innocent little animals that I love. And I'm like, I can name four things right there. I got four dogs. I mean, there's always something, and I know that sounds so Pollyanna, but there is always something that you can be grateful for. Could we have more? Well, yeah, sure, everybody like to be rich and live in a mansion and drive a fancy car, but are you at peace? I mean, there's a lot of people who live that are filthy rich that are miserable people. So you have to take into account, are you at peace? Are you at peace with yourself? Are you trying to do the best you can and be a good person? You know? So that's what I try to concentrate on and try to flip the script on negative people, because it drains me. I'm just like, "Ah, gosh, can't you find one good thing? Like even the cup of coffee that you're drinking, doesn't it taste good?" I mean, anything, just anything.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to not have the ability to focus on anything positive, and for some reason, it just seems the negatives always outweigh the positives for them. But that is just how some people are. And as much as I would like to change that with people, I just don't know if it's possible.
No, I agree with you there. There are some people that are never going to change. There are some people that are never going to change. They will love to sit around and concentrate on the negative instead of the positive. Um, and I don't stay around those people. Honest to goodness, I don't. I have a very, very small circle of people that I talk to. Um, so I kind of tend to self isolate because I need my downtime. I need time to recharge. Because honest to goodness, going out in society is exhausting because it seems like everywhere you go, somebody's either mad or griping or complaining. And it's not that, I know that that doesn't exist and I'm not trying to deal with life. I deal with life on a daily basis. I have to go to work every day. But uh, as far as into my personal life, I I will not keep somebody around like that because I don't want to be a part of that. I want to, like I tell people all the time, I am your hype girl. I will hype you up and find the best things about you and lift you up. I don't want you being down. I don't want you being sad, or I don't want you concentrating on the negative. I want you to realize what a great person you are, what's good about you, what's good in your life, what's good in your personality, you know. So
Yeah, there's
I have, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, when it comes to the people, I feel like we can do the best we can with people, but at the end of the day, the person really has to want it.
Hmm.
And they have to open themselves up to wanting to see the better side of life. And as much as we push and push, not everyone's willing to accept it.
No, they are not. I mean, the guy in my office is a prime example. Is a prime example. You can, he's got a beautiful home. Uh, he's got everything going for him. He recently got married. He seems to really be in love with his new bride, and but yet everything's gloom and doom. Everything's negative. Everything's nitpicking, and I'm just like, I don't understand. You know, and I've worked with the guy almost 2 years. He hasn't changed in those 2 years at all. So he's never going to change, but we're also not personal friends. Like, he is not somebody I would want to hang out with. I have to work with him and I try to get along with him as best I can. But no, he's not somebody that I would just want to hang out with all the time because of the negativity,
Yeah.
because it spreads. It spreads. I'm a firm believer in that. It just spreads. If you're around somebody like that all the time, then, sooner or later, your mindset's going to get like that too.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with some people. It just seems like that's just how they want to be. And I don't think they want to intentionally be that way, but that's just how it works out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to take into account people's life experiences too. Everybody doesn't have the same life experience. They're not brought up the same. So all of us have a different set of values. All of us have a different set of experiences from the time we're born to the time we meet each other. So truly, some people, I guess that's just what it makes all of us individuals as a whole. That's what makes all of us individuals, because of our personal experiences, what we took from that. You can either dwell on everything bad that happened to you, or you can do inner work on yourself and look at, was I responsible for this? Did this happen because of something I did? Let's realistically look at this. Whose fault is this? If it's my fault, then I need to grow from this and I need to learn from it. Uh, if it is not my fault, then I can't carry that anymore and I need to walk away from it, because I didn't necessarily have the greatest childhood. There was a lot of addiction in my home, a lot of things that I was exposed to that no kid should ever be exposed to. And for, I guess, probably well into my 30s, that really, really bothered me. I mean, like, why wasn't I loved enough, or what made me not lovable, or it was always something wrong with me, until I started doing inner work on myself and realized, no, I can't carry what somebody else did into my adult life, and expect that to be on me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then there's other colossal mistakes that I've made in my life that are 100% my fault. I mean, you have to differentiate between the two. Uh, and if it's not your responsibility and you didn't do anything to cause it, then you need to leave that there, because it's not your burden to carry. Uh, if you did make a mistake, learn from it and try to move on, you know. And a lot of people don't have that. They don't want to do that work either. It's hard looking at yourself and admitting you did something wrong. We all want to be right.
Yeah.
We all want to think we're right in how we feel. And sometimes we're not. We just aren't. It could be a very different set of circumstances that cause you on a particular day to be oversensitive, or maybe you said something you shouldn't have said to someone. Uh, so, you have to do that inner work to grow as a person. Some people never grow, they stay stunted where they are and they have no desire to move from there.
No, I don't get it, but we've been going on for about an hour, so I figure we can get ready to wrap this one up. Didn't seem like it's been that long, but
I know. I've really enjoyed talking to you. It was really nice to speak with you.
is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we wrap it up?
Um, no, other than tell people that, trust your intuition.
Yeah,
Just learn to trust yourself.
that is one of the good things to offer advice to for anyone out there. If you get a gut feeling about something, usually follow your gut, is what I tell people.
Mhm. It will never lead you wrong.
Well, Tammy, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It has you too.
You have a good night now. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tells, remember to send an email to tinfoiltellspodcast@gmail.com, or you can also go to tinfoiltells.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to reach out and get a hold of me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. You can also find Tinfoil Tells on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Tinfoil Tells Podcast. You can reach out to me that way too. Remember to share the show around. Word of mouth is the best way to help the show grow. And just remember, truth comes at cost. Are you willing to pay the price?